Now, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are reportedly being used during their royal tour of Colombia. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are scheduled to visit next week. However, many Colombians are sceptical about the visit and worried that Meghan and Harry might be exploited as part of a PR strategy by the government. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the former BBC royal correspondent, Markle. Michael, always a pleasure, my friend. I'm wondering, is this a sign of the most vehement naivety?
Good afternoon, Darren. I think the Duke and Duchess of Sussex should be concerned. That is because they have only their celebrity to sell, and they must be careful not to sell it too cheaply and where they sell it. And Colombia at the moment, with its president, Gustavo Petro, is a government that is mired in controversy and some degree of scandal. Now, I believe that the Duke, and we see him there, would actually benefit by having the expertise of Buckingham Palace at this moment around him, because before there's ever a royal visit anywhere, Darren, there's careful consideration and research done. And it is true that the late Queen, the Prince's grandmother, had very few regrets, but she did regret the state visit by Nicolae Ceausescu, the tyrannical president of Romania, when he came to Britain on a state visit in 1978. In fact, when he was wandering round the gardens, Ceausescu, the Queen was said to have hidden in a bush so she didn't have to talk to him. Well, 11 years after that state visit, on Christmas Day, Ceausescu and his unlovely wife were both shot by a firing squad, by outraged Romanians. Now, when these visits take place, they do give credence to any particular regime that is being visited. And I think there is a danger, certainly the Colombians seem to think there's a danger, that their celebrity, their good intentions, their willingness to help underprivileged people and to do good in the world is being undermined by, as you say, a certain naivete.
And Michael, I wonder then, you mentioned there that their success currently entirely depends on their celebrity. Do you think that's sort of dwindling ever so? Because, I mean, the fact of the matter is they're still having to hype up new interviews and new ideas of getting things done. The podcast was a total flop. I mean, is the independent Sussex future in peril?
Well, you make a very good point. Celebrity wears very thin very quickly. And America is a very different place. You know, America wants what's new. They want the next big thing. The question is, what are you doing now? This country, the United Kingdom and Ireland, they're the home of nostalgia. That's where the old stars that used to be come here and appear in pantomime and do other things. America wants something new. And if you're not coming out with something new, you're old hat, to use a good expression. But to get back to Colombia, they were invited by a vice president whose name is Francia Marquez. And she is the minister of equality and justice, equity. And she has been described as and I quote now, the biggest fraud on the black community, because she rides around in helicopters and she's been accused of, instead of paying attention to her job, but doing up the house that she wants to live in rather than the official residence for the vice president. So I think they've got to be careful, very, very careful indeed. Britain is very careful about these things because there's many people out there, malevolent and mischievous, who would prefer to use the prestige and celebrity of the royal family for their own ends. And that, of course, is what Prince Harry, to a very large extent, sacrificed when he decided in 2020 with his wife and young son to very peremptorily run away, first to Canada and then to California, which may have been her preferred destination all along. So in a way, I feel a bit sympathetic for them, because I think they're probably innocents abroad and they don't realize what geopolitics is going on in the background and how they may be used.
Yes. I mean, Michael, just very briefly, if you would, one of our viewers has asked, well, has this royal tour, if it's been billed as such, been approved by either the palace or the government? Because, you know, it does seem to be being billed as an official visit.
Well, that viewer has a very good question, and I think the definitive answer is no, because they do not refer to Buckingham Palace about anything they do or say.
Well, I mean, that is quite extraordinary in and of itself. Another viewer says, Markle and Windsor embark on a new leg of their worldwide privacy tour. So we'll leave it at that, Michael. Thank you very much for your company, as ever. Now, I'm still joined in the studio by former Conservative Special Advisor Charlie Rowley. Charlie, you dashed out to the shops when Harry released his book, didn't you?
I did for a cutleaf and a pint of milk, I should imagine, because I wouldn't be buying that. Available from all good libraries, I should imagine. So
is it laudable? Is it laudable that they're going out there trying to do good in the world, or do you think it's incredibly naive and they're simply being used as sort of, you know, nice little puppets?
I mean, there is a level of naivety there, but I also think it's. I think what's so, interesting, I think, if you can use that word about this particular story, is that what are they going to do? And I don't think, if we were being a fair society, if we're being fair on clearly someone and a couple who have broken away from a family that they were once a part of, no longer. It's been a very, very public spat. It's been a hugely international story where there would have been all kinds of pressures, I'm sure, on all sides. But if you then want to start a new life, that's what they're doing, that's what they've claimed, and if you want it to be in charity and in helping good causes across the world, because you've got a lot of experience just from growing up within the royal family, a hugely popular international institution, or an internationally known institution, then fine. Then go and do it. But I don't know what they're doing in Colombia. And I don't think anybody knows what they're doing in Colombia.
I'm not sure they know what they're doing.
And I'm sure they don't know. They're just going on tour.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, well, what good is that going to... How is that going to help, in Colombia in any way? How is that going to better any of our view of the world, if they're going to do any kind of media, which no doubt they will? What is the point? And I think that's where it becomes slightly problematic, because if you, as I say, if you just want to have a new life where you are, going to take on injustices, if they were going to Colombia to cause a stir because there might be a problem with the government, or to challenge inequality, or to challenge poverty, or to challenge a particular person, then that's fine, perhaps. The country might let you in, they might not. But at least you're drawing attention to something that actually is where they do have a platform, an international platform where we can all sometimes sit up and listen. They should be using that, I think, for the greater good, not just their own need or ego massaging, whatever. Just to go on a trip just seems without a point.
Feathering their own nest.
Feathering their own nest, exactly.
Well, Charlie, I mean, just finally on that, I wonder, as a former government advisor, do you see any foreign policy issues with the fact that it is been billed essentially as a royal tour, and actually they're still billed as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their Royal Highnesses? Is there an issue there when you're going around foreign countries with sort of sketchy administrations? Is there an issue there that actually it looks official, but it ain't?
Yeah, absolutely. It will be a headache, I'm sure, for the Foreign Office on a particular level, because, that is the diplomacy department for the United Kingdom. That is the one that would be advising, Her Majesty back in the day, and certainly His Majesty now, and royal visits, what is, perhaps right, what should be avoided. Yep. And the fact that there hasn't been any kind of conversation, you allow perhaps a tyranny or a government that is obviously in trouble, or whatever the situation is, whatever country they're visiting, whatever charity, whatever organisation, if it hasn't gone through those checks and balances, you allow that organisation or that particular country to throw it back into the UK's face, and certainly to the wider international community, to say, well, hang on, we can't be that bad a tyranny, or we can't be that bad an oppressive government. We've just had the Duke and Duchess of, and you will play on their titles and play on their visits. So it would be a headache for the UK and its diplomacy efforts on the international stage.
Well, there we are. Charlie Rowley on their secret privacy tour. So thank you very much for that. We'll be getting more from him throughout the show.